Hello and welcome back for another episode of Anatomy of a Hustler. Today we're going to do things a little bit different. We're actually going to give you some background and insight into our lives and why we're here and what we're up to. So I think it makes the most sense to ask you, since this was your inception and you approached me with the idea initially, to give us a little background on what is Anatomy of a Hustler.
Do you mind if I take it like one step before that?
Take it all the way back. any as far back as you want to go. Bring it back to birth if you'd like.
So there was a point before COVID, which is super important, that we were meeting every Wednesday at this event that we had put together called Side Hustle Wednesday. And the concept was that people shouldn't hustle alone. And every Wednesday we were going to show up and bring our laptops out and like focus on working on our hustles. Because I had this theory that if you just stay at home and you just try to work on your hustle, there's no feedback, you don't have an office, you don't have like a culture to like support you. So started building that pre-COVID. I don't even remember what year it was. I only know it was pre-COVID.
Everything before COVID now is just like a blur. There's no actual number.
It's that like 3-4 years ago.
I think it was 2019. 2018, 2019?
2018, 2019.
I think it was 2019 now I'm thinking
and
about
we had traction. We were inviting people were coming out, people were collaborating, they were inviting each other to like do projects together. But
that was another Jenise idea.
Yeah, because I just was like, we should do this and see what happens. And it just started with like, hey, 2 people come to a coffee shop together. Next week we're gonna let's each invite somebody, and then just multiplied from there.
This is how MLMs start.
It is, and it was not an MLM. It was just like, hey, let's just come together. It was kind of like this beautiful idea. There was no catch. There was no, we're trying to sell you something. It was just like, let's just figure this out together. And then, but the whole backing idea behind it was like, I think anybody could be a hustler.
Right.
And so people would come and be like, well, I don't have a side hustle, or my full-time hustle is my career.
Right.
And my theory was that, well, if you have like grit or you're willing to work for something, then that's hustle.
Absolutely.
So I would give that spiel to everybody who came and be like, well, I don't have a side hustle. I'm just normally doing my career thing. But they would always like come and they would have an idea like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Or have you tried this? And that was like the most beautiful thing to come out of it, is that relationships were made, connections were made. I met you.
Yep.
I
was going to say, I wanted to jump in because I didn't want you to segue too far away from Side Hustle Wednesday, because obviously, yes, we met there, which is beautiful. Love that. But what immediately drew me in was there was an energy to it that I was like, wait, someone is DMing me about showing up to this thing. And I had seen it on their story. And so I was like, in a transitional period of my life anyway, and I was kind of looking for a sense of community, and I walked in and I was like, oh, this is kind of a vibe, and this is interesting because this isn't your typical show up at a networking event and we're hustle, business card, and it's just a numbers game.
What do you call it again? Like a business card farm?
A business card farm, yeah. That's what I call most networking events, is a business card farm. But yeah, it was so far from that. And I was like, who's doing this? Why is this so cool? And your name was brought up, but I hadn't actually like sought you out to actually create any real connection for the first couple ones that that I was attending. But it was just this communal understanding. And yeah, there was some people that were not always like there with the right intentions or motives, but the people that really stood out were the ones that were there with altruistic purposes. And I made connections that honestly helped get me through COVID. Like there was work that came as a result of that legitimately, looking back as I've been reflecting over these past few days and seeing that time period of my life, I was like, holy shit, I would not have met her had I never showed up to Side Hustle Wednesday too. So brief pause to segue into like kudos for doing the thing and like putting it out there and really building community.
It's kind of dead, and that's not dead now. It kind of like evolved, and then I think it was during Side Hustle Wednesday, I was like, what if we did a podcast called Anatomy of a Hustler? And the word just, I don't know where that phrase came from, but it was just like, I'm gonna look it up. Looked it up. It was a rap song that has like no traction. Nobody had used it in any other.
Well, hopefully we blow up and they get some views off of this too.
Yeah, we get, ranking number 1.
Right.
And the concept was that I don't think people truly understand what it takes to be a hustler. And that there's so many different versions of hustle that in order to like truly understand it, like it'd be a really cool idea to interview people and be like, okay, so what's your hustle? How did you get to this place? And then it was also a mix of like the nurture versus nature. Like, did you grow up hustling? Did you have parents who had a business like me, where I would watch them and they had never had a normal job in their lives? So that's how I grew up. Like, I grew up like my parents always owned a business.
Oh, okay.
So, or did you learn from getting inspired by someone, or someone became your mentor and like pulled you into business, or you just had that hunger and then seeked out trying to start a business or work with someone to start a business? So that's where Anatomy of a Hustler is. So I wanted to understand that.
Okay.
And it's I think it's 50-50, but I think there's also something, I don't know if what you've like insights you've pulled from the interviews we've done so far, if it's the people we've met, they just like had this like inkling in their heart and it just kind of like bloomed how it grew into something, or they just or maybe it was like at a point of tension where it's like they had to do something, like no money, what am I gonna do, how do I figure out my life, but I know it's not this.
Right.
Yeah,
It's an interesting one, because I wish there was a formula. I wish there was a recipe. It seems like a very interesting mix between opportunity and restlessness. Like, people get caught up in something and then find the light that's shining on the mushrooms, right? For example, with shared cultures.
Yeah.
That I think everyone has the capacity. I
Yes,
think that
100%.
we are brought up in a way that doesn't always nurture that capacity, though.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary, that especially living in the US. I don't know if you've ever talked to anyone who isn't from the States. Our opportunity here is so great in the United States that people from other countries, like when they try to start a business here and get an LLC here, it's going to cost them upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And if you live in America, and this is my whole other show, but if you live in America, you have an opportunity to start a business like tomorrow.
Easy.
Put together a business license, throw it together, put a website together, maybe spend $100.
If you want to do it the official way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can just start selling shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can go about it. But what stands out to you as why that was calling to you to even want to start it? Because it's like, yeah, this is a cool premise, but what is it about learning more and doing these interviews that you were like, this is the thing I really want to try to pursue more of?
Can I tell you the defiant Jenise version, like back in 2019?
Fuck yeah.
Was I would watch people complain about their lives, and they would have all this time. And I had a daughter. I've had a daughter since I went through college with her, had very little time. And I would look at people who are like, oh, I really want this for my life, but I just don't have any time. Man, I'm just so busy doing my normal, or I'm like bogged down by this. And after my 9 to 5, I just go home and watch Netflix and blah, 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 and complain about how I don't have opportunities. Right. I'd be like, you have opportunities, you have time, you just don't care enough to do it. And so I wanted to tell the story of like, you have every opportunity, it's totally possible, you just have to be exposed. Like, my theory is that even for kids or just for adults in general, the thing that really sets people's path is just exposure. Yeah. So if we can expose as many people as possible to what's out there, how people are hustling, how their different business models are, how they're actually making money, how they're not making money, and they're just building a movement maybe, then that's gonna like stoke a fire or start a little fire in their hearts.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really cheesy.
No, it's not cheesy at all. I love it. I think that having an example of behavior that you can model shows you there's opportunity, that shows you there's path, and the closer you are to that behavior that you can model, the better, because that's going to imprint. I love that, though. So how has that evolved to today then? Is there a different answer to that question, or is it still secretly that defiant Jenise?
A little bit defiant, still like, stop complaining about your life. You have an opportunity to go after what you want, and nothing's stopping you except for you. It doesn't have to look the same. Stop scrolling on social media and stop thinking that you have to do it the same as everybody else.
Right.
That's super frustrating. I think we get told in mainstream media, like, this is how people hustle.
Yep.
And it's so, like, I don't know if you're bored of it yet. I think it's boring to hear how people are like the default is real estate, right now. That's super hot. The default is start a marketing agency. It's so easy, just like outsource somebody from the Philippines. And that's super annoying to hear, because like, it doesn't have to be that way. Right. And it
oversimplifies a lot too. It shows you the highlight reel or the what could be, but it's selling an image that some of these people haven't even built. They're just renting the lifestyle, funding the dream, trying to convince other people to pay into that dream.
But they're also the loudest on social.
And they are. And they are.
What can we do, and why did I reach out to you? I heard your story, and I was like, holy cannoli, this guy's so interesting. And you've had many evolutions of your hustle.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was a reason why you were attracted to come to Side Hustle Wednesday, but the reason why I reached out was because you have lived, I think, like the ethos of what it means to be a hustler.
Yeah.
So you take us back to like where your hustle started.
Ooh, interesting, because my hustle, I can look back and see that I kind of had an entrepreneurial bug from a very young age. And I think that came from a couple things, but it was the memory I can fondly look back on now is wanting this G.I. Joe. And I know I'm dating myself by saying I wanted this G.I. Joe because I saw it in like some catalog or comic book. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like $32, which was
That sounds like a lot back in
crazy amount of money back in the 40s when I was born, right? No, but it was a shit ton of money. And I went to my mom and I was like, I want this. She's like, we ain't got no money for that. Like, I can't do that. And I told my grandparents, and they're like, well, you can work to earn that money. And I was like, oh, okay, that's an option. Cool. Let me try to figure this thing out. So I started mowing lawns. That was their lawn, and I think a neighbor's lawn. I wasn't doing much, but it was like $1 every week because my grandpa would give me $1 to mow that front yard every single week. And I was like, man, this is taking a while. And I don't know where I saw the idea or how it even like spun up, but I did a lemonade stand too.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that taught me the value of positioning and attention, because the street my grandparents lived on was not a high traffic street. But there was some things that came of that too that are just kind of sidebar conversations. But ultimately, I stacked up, got this G.I. Joe, and I was really let down because I was hyping this thing up in my head like, oh, it's going to be big and cool, and it comes in.
And you put all those hours in, sweat equity.
Tons of hours. And it came in, and I got it, and I opened up the box, and I was secretly crushed, but I couldn't show that to anyone. I couldn't let anyone in on this thing that I was like kind of let down by this purchase because I had worked so hard to get it. But that opportunity to just create something for myself stuck with me for whatever reason. And I didn't really nurture it much. I didn't really like think of it much. There wasn't like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Like, I think I maybe sold some candy in high school or something to just make some side cash. That was kind of the hustle for Natomas. If you went to Natomas High.
With your backpack, go to Costco.
Yep, stuff like that, right? But that was like the initial kickoff, was that seed being planted. Otherwise, I tried to live a very normal life. Like I tried normal. 9 to 5, college, do that, pursue that. And along the way, I just kept running into these issues where I was like, how does my boss not see this opportunity? And then when I present this opportunity, is this not being received? And like, why am I not being taken serious? And always feeling like I can do better, while also still thinking in this mindset, like, I don't need to try to do something on my own. Like, why would I? Like, there's an opportunity. And I was getting all this advice to like, do the normal thing, get a state job, try to pursue that.
Oh, so like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like how I was raised, but like the word state job just makes me want to throw up. But that was also presented to me, like just be super stable.
That's the Sacramento way.
Oh,
yeah.
It like gives, like physically makes me like just cringe.
Yeah, and shout out to the state workers. You guys need to spend more money downtown to keep these businesses alive. And like there's value to you having a 9-to-5 job. And I don't want to hate on anyone with a 9-to-5 job, even though I do believe everyone should try to pursue some sort of side hustle, some sort of project or passion. Yeah. But
sidebar, met somebody, he was like, I've been at the state for 15 years. My true passion is photography, but I'm too close to the end to leave now. So he was like, I just got to stick it out. So
yeah, and I think that there's nothing wrong with normalizing having a hobby that may pay you on the side.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be a full-on side hustle, because even if you're not getting paid or whatever, but you're still extracting value, tight, do that, have fun.
So our stories are actually not that different. Like when you talked about a lemonade stand, we did a lemonade stand, me and my siblings, and then we did like a snow cone stand, and we like sold those like mini brownies from Costco.
We tried to do a snow cone stand too.
And then, yeah.
Damn, yeah.
But it just like I think back to people who like are entrepreneurs, and they always have that like story of like, yeah, back when I was a kid, I tried to start this,
right.
And even if it failed, it's still like something that it sticks out in your memory. It's like it's possible to like put yourself out there and do it.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that I had that opportunity because probably wouldn't have wound up where I am today without at least that seed being planted. Because it wasn't like I grew up around entrepreneurs, which I think is cool about your story. It was I grew up around people that worked hard, and they worked hard, and that's how they leveled up. Like we didn't grow up with like the white picket fence typical like suburbia story by any stretch, and the free lunch pains of like poverty were real, and I know what that feels like. So also knowing in the back of my mind like, damn, I can create some of this too, but never really thinking like, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to create something to provide for myself or my family or whatever? It was never so bad that it would have forced me into that kind of action. But it was enough that I really understood the value of $1 for not having $1.
Got it.
Yeah.
Which just puts that little hustle fire in
It does. It does. I think some of the best grit comes from lack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew you as, well, before what you're doing now, you were known as like the 916 picks guy.
Yeah.
Do you want to take me through like how you became that guy?
Sure,
known for
sure.
916 picks, and explain what that is for people who aren't.
Yeah.
Here
So
whatever year that was.
for the heyday of the nightlife of Sacramento. So basically I'll go back a little bit because I think the lead into that will kind of give a little bit more context, because it wasn't like I just woke up one day like, I'm going to do a nightlife photography company. So as my high school senior project, I decided I would DJ because it was very loose, very open-ended as to what you could do. You just had to do it and be willing to present for it and get a grade on it. So I was like, DJing sounds cool. I was really into hip hop. I was doing graffiti, like all sorts of things. It just seemed like a natural progression. So through DJing, I was working with a buddy of mine, and we were throwing parties, and we threw some events and made some money. And it was like, I made $1,200 off of one party, and it was the most money I could ever think of. Like,
whoa.
At that point, I had been a student assistant or my another like 9-to-5 job. I don't remember what or why that would even matter for me to bring up. Sorry, but that thing happened, and I was like, holy shit. Unfortunately, with that, and with, I don't even want to just call it like the area that I was in or the industry that I was in, some people see that and they want to take, and they're not approaching things with the same level of community ethos that I had. And so that opportunity evaporated. But with that evaporation of us being able to throw these types of events that we were doing, it spawned into something else, because it was like, well, my buddy still wants to DJ, I still want to DJ, so where else should we go? The club. So we started going to the nightclub, and we were just going to go as guests.
Yeah.
Because it's like we know
you missed the lifestyle a little bit.
It wasn't so much the lifestyle, because when we were throwing parties, mind you, this was for 18 and under. So we were throwing teen parties.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So, and funny enough, there's still people that I'm friends with to this day that came to those parties that knew me from that and have seen me all the way through to where I am today. So shout out to you guys. I appreciate you for following along on this journey. But yeah, so with those drying up, because unfortunately there was people that were just bad actors and not really as concerned with security as we were. There were some fights, some violence, and some other issues.
Like doing things right, basically. Yep.
People not on the up and up, and then no venue wanted to touch them anymore. So we're like, well, shit, what do we do? And that's where we found the segue to the club. It wasn't so much that it was like, oh, that's where we were heading. Because at that point it was like, well, shit, I could throw one of these parties every 2 or 3 weeks. So we can throw one every week and we'll be set. We don't have to worry about anything. But again, necessity breeds some of these types of opportunities, and we still wanted to pursue it, and just went as a guest, and that evolved by just showing up and starting to talk to people and seeing people and showing up regularly, to where we started our own little promotional crew. And so promoting realized like, well, this may shock you. I'm kind of awkward.
Oh,
and
no.
yeah, approaching a group of women in a nightclub sounds like the worst thing possible for who I was back in that day. But women in the club are what pays the bills because men want to come to the club to buy
Preach.
drinks. And yeah,
I don't think that's changed. That's a
no,
universal
no.
truth.
That's absolutely universal. Absolutely universal. You have women somewhere, you have opportunity to make money. That's, you guys are the decision makers and you're the leader of people coming to spend money to make. Yeah. Anyway, but what I realized was, yes, I am awkward as shit. It feels weird. I didn't want to be vulnerable enough to approach and like be shot down for being creepy or any weirdness like that. Someone had a camera and they were just taking pictures of us. And I was like, well, let me see that. Got the camera, took some pictures of us. And then someone was like, oh, can you take a picture? And I was like, yeah. I took a picture and I was like,
This is pre-selfie iPhones.
Oh yeah, way before that. So I took that photo and handed one of my business cards, and that girl reached out to me for the photo, and I was like, yo, we're on to something here. That spun into Cope Photos, which then evolved into 916 Pics, because 916 Pics was, because there was a hole in the market that was once occupied by another nightlife photography company. And at the time, there was a lot of backbiting and bickering and fighting and stealing jobs for no money, really, like $50 gigs, $30 gigs. People were fighting over shit like that. And so because
Sacramento. Yeah.
It's so corny. Looking back on it now, it's so corny. But nightlife is known to breed some characters because people are chasing vices and shit too. So yeah, I appreciate it for what it is, hate it for what it's what it's not, right, and what it could be. But yeah, so started 916 Pics just as an opportunity because I was like, you know what, this Cope Photos thing is cool. It plays into my ego. I feel like the man, like I'm making a little bit of money, like on the side of my other 9 to 5.
And you built a squad, right? You had a
squad
of photographers.
Yeah, I did. I had a squad. I had photographers and promoters. Like we had a cool little unit. We weren't making as much money as we should have, and that's what I kept learning. Like as I started seeing more and more behind the veil, like we're not getting paid. We're not getting paid. We're the ones creating this opportunity, but we're not getting paid. So gatekeepers is a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a big thing that I fight against, and we'll probably see more of that in this conversation or more of this in life. But the opportunity where I approached these other photographers that were technically my competition, and I was like, hey guys, we can unify and we can build our own thing, and we could set a standard for prices so that we're not beating each other up over $50 gigs. I'll build the website. I'll buy the business cards. I just need you guys to commit that if we're going to do this, we're not going to compete with each other anymore. And if it's a club or event, this is what our rate is going to be. And if you seek out that work, that's your work. That's totally fine. That's totally understandable. But everything should come back to this platform. And mind you, this was not me like saying, come back to the platform because I'm going to get paid off of it. I was making no money, and I still make no money off of 916 Pics.
Whoa.
It was fully built as an opportunity for us all to grow and evolve and to make more money in the process. And I enjoyed it. I had fun. I loved nightlife. I loved taking photos. I loved being around people. I loved the connections that I make, because you see a lot of good and a lot of really like shitty sides of people, but it embodies the human experience, really, in so many ways.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure one of your photographers has taken a picture of me when at the club.
Yeah.
And you go back and you look on Facebook when Facebook was super hot, and you go take that picture, or you go find that picture, and you have a little bit of a laugh or like a reminiscent of like, okay, this is what happened.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that's cool. And during that time too of like MySpace, Facebook, etc., it's like
Instagram, maybe not as hot.
No.
Yeah,
no. Not for a while. That's exactly it. You had something to look forward to, and knowing what I know now, I'm like, holy shit, I had so much opportunity. Like I could have taken this in so many different directions, but
you could have been like Instagram.
Yeah, well,
or the nightlife version of it.
Right. Well, I could have. There's a lot of different things I could have done, but again, not knowing, not having behavior to model, this was just like the easiest thing that I could think of for me to make money too, because I was shooting at the time, but two, for some of my guys to make more money and to just stop fighting. Because it was like, these clubs are not paying. I know what these clubs are making. I know because I threw parties. So I knew like money's being made. Yeah. And even now, like club photographers don't get paid what they need to by any stretch. And I would like to spend more time trying to elevate that, but I got to pay bills for myself and my team at GDM.
Less of an uphill battle,
Yeah,
what you're doing right
much
now.
less of an uphill battle now.
Okay, so I think the things that you've identified in your hustle journey that like I think we're starting to see as like this reoccurring theme is like, one, you have this innate sense of like there's more out there and that it's possible. So you and I both have had a lemonade stand. So we've tried to make money at a young age.
Yep.
Whether it did well or not, like we understood the concept of like, okay, let's do this.
Right.
And then the word you keep using over and over again that I find most hustlers just act like, it seems like they like accidentally find themselves in these situations is opportunity. They're like, oh, there's an opportunity. So, more risk adverse people would be like, oh, that's an interesting insight. That's an interesting opportunity. And then they let it pass them by because they don't think that they're capable.
And I've done that a lot too.
Which is totally fine. Yeah. But the ones that do like where that light clicks in your brain and you're like, oh, this could be an opportunity and taking advantage, not taking advantage, but going after it is what makes a hustler.
I think taking advantage of it. I think it's fine. You got to take it. You have to take it.
There's so many gaps in the market right now for a lot of things and so much opportunity with technology.
100%.
But that opportunity being like, there's an opportunity here. Yep. Even if it's a little bit. And then figuring that out. All hustlers have that little like inkling insight. They're able to connect the dots.
Right.
And so after 916 picks, what actually pays the bills now?
Yeah, so that interestingly enough, I get to look back and laugh on all of this and say like the club photographer, the guy that took photos of half of Sacramento drunk at one point, like it evolved into this agency that I'm building where I was put on the spot by a buddy of mine in a marketing meeting for one of the clubs that I was shooting at. And
another opportunity.
Like, this one was like forced on me in the best way possible. Like, because I would have probably said no or avoided it just because of insecurities, fear, failure, all sorts of reasons why I would have said no. But being put on the spot, I was like, I can. Because
they asked you to do, what did they ask?
They said, did anyone know that anyone that can build a website? And my buddy was like, Cope can build websites.
And now it's become your whole personality.
And now it's become the whole thing, right? And that opportunity was like shocking because I didn't, for whatever reason, it never clicked to me that people pay for this thing. People pay for this stuff. I did it. Initially, I learned to do it back in when I was at ARC. So I was junior college, back when I was in college. I learned it because I was convinced I was going to be Mark Echo. I wanted to have my own streetwear line, but I didn't want to pay people shit because I had dealt with shitty marketers. When I tried to seek out my own web design needs, I had dealt with some shitty marketers where this guy gave me the best spiel, like grabbed coffee. We talked multiple times and I told him about my ideas and my project and this and that. And then I told him, I shot him an email like, thanks, dude, that was such a great meeting. I'm running the numbers and I think I could probably put together like $1,000 to build this website. Crickets. And I was like, oh, I don't have any money compared for what this guy's expecting from me. And he gave me a whole spiel and hyped me up and just fully just ghosted. So I was like, fuck that. I jumped into some coding classes and realized, fuck that. I am not a developer. But I learned enough to know like how to fix some things and do some things, but I knew I was never going to be a full-on like developer and be writing code or anything. So it just created that enough of a fuck you that I created opportunity off of it, and I built code
There's
photos,
your
and
defiance.
I built 916 Picks. Yeah, 100%. Very defiant. And that's what created the conversation for me to be even sitting in the meeting, because in my eyes, like sitting down with the owners of these clubs, restaurants, bars, whatever, was like, whoa, these guys are goated. They're never going to want to talk to you. You're just the photographer. And then being in the room and then being put on the spot just created that opportunity.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you started with websites and now you have GDM. And for those who don't know, is
Grayed Out Media. GDM. And so I like to say we're a full service marketing agency, but I'm kind of shifting that. I'm shifting that definition to we are on a mission to humanize marketing.
which I love.
And
yes.
right, thank you. And the reason for that is we get wrapped up in a lot of distraction and we measure moments for their monetary value. And yeah, I'm all for ROI and all sorts of those fucking catchy 3-letter shit that are associated with marketing. I'm all for all of that. But what's not taken into consideration enough from my perspective is there's a human element here, and you're trying to persuade another human and devaluing them down to just the base conversion metric is so short-sighted.
You can't live on marketing like you can't grow a marketing team like that either.
No.
Or grow your business, in fact, actually.
I don't think so. At least not in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
I think like, yeah, you can convince someone to buy once, but to make them a lifetime customer, that's the shit I'm impressed by. Or the craftsmen, the people that give enough fuck to produce something, knowing it's the difficult way. That shit lights me up. So that's a very human thing because, I mean, we're living in a time of rapid technological development where it's like robots are writing better than some people that have been paid to write for years.
Yeah. I get sad because I've seen a lot of layoffs, and it's usually like the copywriters who are the first to go. Marketers are the first to go too, actually.
Yep.
And then HR, of course.
Of course.
Like, we're not hiring anybody. Goodbye.
Of course. But I think if we were to slow down a little bit to realize there's a human, there are plenty of us, not to say technology is bad or wrong or whatever, like there's just different ways we can view how we've been living. And I'm all for just the rapid like progression of technology for us to be forced into having those conversations.
I think that's what breeds new businesses, what breeds new products and services, what breeds innovation.
Yep.
Recessions are great for startups to come up.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm like. Not excited for recession, excited to see what forcing hand brings more startups to the table in the next couple of years.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of that. Because I think that one of the common things for me was just being let down forced me to pick up and do something. Like whether that was I was let down like by myself and I was in a shitty position that I put myself in, or I was let down by others, it forced me to be introspective and then do. Because I think a lot of people will get in a rut, they'll be hard on themselves, they'll whatever, and they blame external. But you're capable of change. It just takes that willingness to take that first step and then another one and another. Like, because my thing is, I'm not that fucking special. I'm really not.
Me neither.
I was just willing to put my balls on the line and say, hey, I'm going to do this thing, and it may work, it may not.
Yeah.
And progressively try to just grow, develop, do more, be more, and just keep making things better and better.
I think that feeds into the thesis that I think anyone could be a hustler.
Absolutely.
It just depends on how bad you want it.
And it depends on your skill sets. It depends on your willingness to evolve. Because, like, yeah, you can, but if you're, digging in and you're like, no, this is the way it's going to be, cool. I understand the market may not.
Yeah, not every business idea is going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I think failure is beautiful. I think that failure is a wonderful opportunity to grow and learn.
And that's like the third hallmark of a hustler, I think, is they're willing to fail.
I'm not.
You're not willing to fail?
Not at all.
What do you mean?
I don't want to fucking fail. I hate it. I mean, my definition of failure has grown and changed a lot.
Yeah.
But for the context of the conversation as it exists right now, I don't want to lose ever.
But you knew that there's a possibility that you could fail at any of these opportunities that you pursued.
Yeah. Just like I know I have to die and that it's gonna happen at some point, and it's completely out of my control too. So I kind of weigh those two at the same. And I'm like, well, fuck it. Still got to do something. Still got to move forward. And it's not like I'm like pure go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. No. Far from it. And like you said, I've been in a very observational mode as of late. And I mean, even across the past year, I would say, or years now, like COVID forced me to stop, slow down, and see things.
Everybody else a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know. I'm just like, I'm going to take this conversation in so many different ways, but I want to actually go back to you because I could talk your ear off about my shit.
I mean, we should eventually, yeah.
Yeah, we could do more of these. I think this would be a good time capsule, like we said. But tell me more about your hustle. Tell me about some of your origin story. What turned you into defiant Jenise? How did you come to be who you are?
I think I mentioned this before. I grew up with a family who always had a business. So by the time I was 10, I had been to business meetings and etiquette classes and learned how business lingo and things like that and understanding opportunities.
Really?
But my hustle was, it also, I got the bad side of business, which is it's not all highs, there's a lot of lows. Yeah. And so my hustle was seeking opportunities to help other people. So in high school, I did a couple things where I was like, I love music because I grew up being a huge music nerd, and I know that people are super talented. So I had like still this belief that people can do anything, and I would put together these like showcases.
Nice.
It was someone else's club. It was a club that met together. They were called like Club Expressions, and they did like artsy, like, you know, acoustic guitar, spoken word, things like that. And I was like, I have this idea. If you guys did a showcase and you did tryouts and you put this thing together, you could charge for it. Yes. And so I just like hopped on somebody's idea, and they just looked at us like, okay, sure. Took this crazy idea, was able to raise money for like all those crazy like earthquakes that had happened back in the 2010s. And we raised like $800 for Haiti, another $800 for Japan, like whatever tsunamis had happened. But it was like this concept of like, I can bring people together. Yep. I can take their talents and make money off of it. Yep. But we didn't keep the money, of course. We donated to nonprofits, and like obviously
but you still saw an opportunity.
Saw this opportunity.
You took advantage of it.
I was like, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not that good at music, but I know that I can put these people together.
And there's value to that. Yeah. I think that more people need to realize like having an idea, especially an idea around monetization for other people.
It doesn't have to be like, I don't have to be the talent.
Right.
Which now talking about is really funny, because when I look back at it, I'm like, why did I just like think that I could just come into someone else's thing that they had started and be like, here's an idea. And we proved the model. Yeah. We repeated it again with a couple other nonprofits I had worked with, and was like, you guys should do an open mic and it should look like this. And we did guerrilla marketing where we posted posters all over Elk Grove. And like stuffed this tiny coffee shop with like 100 and something people.
This is why we get along. This is why we click on a lot of levels.
It's like guerrilla marketing, getting people together, love for music, utilizing other people's talents to like figure out how to make things happen.
100%.
And so, I mean, I did that through college, and I did film because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Like I did film in high school, did film in college. And then I realized, like, holy crap, they don't make money. What am I going to do? They don't make money. Or the path to making money, it's a long and tough road. I had a kid. But because of my parents' business background and because I'd grown up in that, I was, same as you, was able to see opportunities that people didn't, understood the market a little bit differently. And then I was like, I want to work for a startup. I just had that in my brain. I was like, I'm going to work for a startup.
Did you see someone you knew that, like, was in that realm? Or are you just like, this is the thing?
Like, I was just like, I'm going to do it. Like, I know startups, technology has money.
Yeah.
Apps make money. There was a couple people I'd partner with to try to like, hey, you have an app idea? Cool. This is how you should do it. And I realized like developers are their own worst enemy because they think it has to be perfect.
Ooh, that's the creative curse.
It's the creative curse. And so I would keep like meeting these people and like being like, hey, I have this, your idea is great. This is how you should make money. This is how you should pitch it. This is how you should do research. And I would always come in like this like head where they were like ego over, you know, putting something out. Yeah. And this is no, whoever I'm talking about, like this is no, what is the word? Like this is no like against them at all.
I think that
but it was a learning lesson for me. Good. Where like people will be their own worst enemy.
Yes, they will.
And me trying to be like, yeah, this is totally possible. I could see this vision for you. You just have to believe it. And if they didn't believe it, they weren't ever going to see it. And so I networked my ass off until I got into my first startup.
Okay. What did that look like?
Oh, gosh. This
was in college or
this was out of college, post-college in Sacramento. Worked around the corner here, actually, at Co-O Campus's first co-working space.
Yeah,
that's how I met
21st Street, right? Right
in 21st and P.
Yep.
Was part of the startup, had these grand ideas, did these crazy things. You know, famous YouTubers came to the events that we had put together, got influencers, got a proclamation from the city, like did these like crazy things that like startups, it's like you have to push innovation, you have to push your marketing. Yep. And I was always like hustling, like trying to figure out how to make this startup make the most noise. And then that's kind of what like propelled my career into like startups and working in marketing. And now where I'm at, it's kind of interesting. It's like I'm a marketing generalist. Like I think that I don't have like one specialty. And before I would think it's kind of like a difficult place to be because people are looking for specialists. But what I'm more realizing is that like there's a culture within startups that feeds my soul where it's like we need people like you who want to innovate, who want to push boundaries.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I'm where I am at now, working at a startup, which has been extremely rewarding and fun. But I still have that inkling, like every hustler, to do a side hustle, build a podcast, do
Spin
something,
off.
spin something up, see how you can make money from it. And
Right.
then that's how I got here.
I dig it. I dig it.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, man. I'm just imagining you walking around putting up posters and...
Or I just convince people to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you had a little street team,
Yeah, you
huh?
just like, hey, I have this great idea. It'd be so great if you could just put out 5 posters wherever you live.
Nice.
Just convince people to do things.
Well done. Well done.
If it's for a good cause, if you get people to believe in a cause or a mission,
Big. That's big.
that's like where I live and die by.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I can get people to believe in a mission.
I'd co-sign that. I'd co-sign that.
And
I've
I think
seen...
that's why this is like so important.
Yeah.
It's like I have this mission in my head. However we get there, however we show the world that anyone can be a hustler, and this
Right.
is what hustling looks like. Like
Right.
that's what I want to do. That's the impact I want to have on the world. I feel like, have you talked about that? I don't know if we talked about that before this. About
No,
like
we've had some conversation. Like you said, you're a marketing generalist. I'm a Jenise generalist. Like I know generally about
there's
some
just
of
too
your
much
life.
to unpack, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It'd turn into a full therapy session or something if we were to do all of that. But the idea that other people don't always come to the table with or don't always see for themselves is going also taking that from the idea of you jumping in on this creative group and saying, y'all can make money off
You guys
this.
could, yeah.
To then where you're at in the startup world where you're coming to it with this idea in mind, like, oh, I need to be a specialist, when in reality, no, those artists you were dealing with, they were specialists.
Yeah.
They had their one thing, but they only saw that one thing. You can see all the things, may not be able to do the head spin or the open mic night thing, but you could see a path towards monetization and growth and all these other
Or
things.
just make it a bigger mission.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I love that.
That's great. Like, I think we both have very similarities in our paths, even though we're sitting in 2 different sides of hustle right now.
Right.
Me and my career and you building something. It doesn't mean that we're not, I'm not ever going to start a business.
Absolutely.
And doesn't mean that you ever won't build a big corporation one day or a startup.
Who knows?
We're just on one side of the coin right now.
Absolutely. And I'm fine with being intentionally small. That doesn't mean I won't ride the wave of the universe into whatever grows and evolves as a result of all of this. Because just like I was surprised to be sitting here as a result of being a club photographer and taking pictures of my favorite line is I just take pictures of drunk chicks.
My favorite line of yours is, I think you said it earlier, it's like, I've taken pictures of half of Sacramento drunk.
Yep.
Just like put that on a bumper sticker.
That's
put
going to
it
be
on
my
your
business
tombstone.
card. That's going to be my business card. I'm going to start handing that one out. So yeah, I'm very open to the idea of whatever this grows and evolves into. And I was about to jump in and say that this relates to my version of
What you think
what
this
I
would be?
think hustle is.
Go for it, yeah.
I want to know yours though.
Yeah.
I want to know what's your definition of a hustler.
I think regardless if it's starting your own thing or your own business or your own movement or being part of another person's business, it's like the change makers, like people who are willing to like put their foot down and put their effort into pushing a business or movement forward.
Love that.
Like, that's it. That's all you need. Like a little bit of like, what's that called? Like, that's what, like, you
That's fine, yeah.
you gotta like want to make change. You want to do something different. The philosophy I used to have before is like, I don't think like hustle, you can become a real estate agent super fine.
Yep.
But there's people who've done that before. It's a repeatable process.
Yep.
I think like true hustle comes from like wanting to put something in the world that's a little bit different, or you do something a little bit different, and like that's like what I think like a true hustler does. It's like,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. I support that. Kind of like my my view on why craftsmen and artisans and artists like really light me up. They're doing something a little bit different. Like they're not doing the thing. They're creating to create. They're
Yeah.
making. And you're talking about making change or making something.
That's why I love startups, is like
Yeah.
they're putting something new into the world. Do they know it's going to work or be sustainable?
Right.
There's some like forecasting, yeah, we can figure that out, but like they're willing to put that idea out there and build something around it.
That's a very, very astute observation too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense as to why you find
Like joy
it
in startups.
and the joy
Yeah.
in startups, because I've definitely seen highs and lows with our conversations
Mm-hmm.
together for startup, because startup culture isn't always just like, wow, sunshines, rainbows, and back massages. Like, no, it's far from that. That I've tried to envision myself in startups, and I've even had opportunities
Yeah.
and jobs like, hey, you should check this out. I could get you in guaranteed,
Mm-hmm.
like stuff like that. And I've played with the idea. I just don't want a job. I don't
Say
want.
it. I don't want a job. He
want
doesn't want a
fucking
job.
I am unemployable. Like I just don't subscribe to it for me. But that's because I want to do everything my way, as a result of trying to do everything everyone else's way.
Yeah.
And realizing how empty that path was for me, now I'm like, I'm gonna find full fulfillment even if I go fucking broke, which I'm not on trajectory.
No, we're not
or
getting
path.
broke. No.
Not going there. But that goes to my definition of a hustler.
Mm-hmm.
A hustler is someone that is willing to create, but they're creating that for themselves, and in that process, they have to grow and evolve. They have to change. They have to see opportunity and rise to that occasion.
Yeah.
And that's not always a comfortable process. So it's being comfortable in that discomfort and being able to self-actualize and self-analyze to be like, yo, who am I? And that definition could and should change. Because to me, that's what real hustle is
Yeah.
like, cool, whether you're looking at it from the perspective of the negative connotation of hustle as it relates to where, like, what I knew hustle as, of just selling drugs,
Yeah.
right? If that's all you're going to do, you have a very short shelf life. But if you're going to pivot that into something else, that's where your hustle elevates. That's why I love Jay-Z. You know, like Hove did it. He figured it
Yeah.
out. He saw a path. He saw a plan that included growth, expansion, all these different
And maybe he
things.
didn't always see it from the beginning, but he was willing to take the opportunity to go figure that out.
I'm going to wait till I interview him to find out. That'll be a great question for me to ask him. Hove, if you want to be on the pod, please hit us up. But yeah, so that's my definition, is that willingness to create something and realize that creation should grow and evolve and change.
I love that. I mean, it's we're on two sides of the hustle spectrum, but it's the same thing where it's like grit rules all. Like being willing to fight for what you want.
Do the fucking thing. Yep.
So where do you want Anatomy of a Hustler to go? Or what is your hope for Anatomy of a Hustler? Who do you hope we interview other than
Jay-Z?
Other than Jay-Z?
I will always be fascinated by people that are creating something. I will be especially in love with people that are creating with their hands, with their talents, with something
Yeah.
that is the slow way, the unscalable. And being able to talk to people that are just fully consumed by what they're creating is just mesmerizing. I just love it. I love seeing people that are like fully engulfed in something, because I can't sit still long enough
Yeah.
to be engulfed in something like that. So being able to sit there and look at someone like, wow, you give that much fuck about cheese? Holy shit.
I do feel that way about
love
people.
it. So I would love to talk to more artisans, more craftsmen, because I think that those are very unique
Yeah.
hustles. I, of course, love people that make tremendous wealth, money, growth. Like, that's cool too. But I'll always be even more intrigued by the artist. I will always be intrigued by that.
I really want to interview not only artists, but also people whose hustles evolved. So I know there's a couple like people who initially started creating one thing,
Yeah.
and then they like branched out and like spun another business out and then spun another business out. And I would love to interview people who've made multiple businesses from that one business.
Yeah.
Or even evolved in their hustle. Like maybe they have a social media presence, and then they were one for a beauty guru, for example, and then evolved into something else, and are making money another way.
Yep.
I think anyone who's making money in an untraditional way would be super interesting to interview.
Oh yeah.
Like, give me super untraditional, unconventional, whoever wants to tell their story and say, like, this is how you can make money. It doesn't have to be, I guess, like, exciting. I had this, like, weird, like, I was, like, had this, like, idea earlier. I was like, what if I just did a boring business? Like, like, I would love to interview someone who has a technically boring business, because that's more exciting, or can be exciting, because it's very tangible.
That is.
Yeah.
That is, and now I'm racking my brain thinking about boring businesses.
Like,
and I'm like,
there's like a whole trend of like laundromat owners or vending machine. What does that evolve into?
Yeah.
What does it allow you to do?
I'm very curious. What were some of the hustles you grew up around?
Not drug dealing. It was my parents owned a business. Well, my dad and mom, both of them had weird hustles. That's a thing. My dad was a DJ.
Hey.
One of my best friends from high school, him and our dads DJ'd in high school, and then they reconnected when we met again in high school.
I love it.
My parents, before, they always had this story where they used to sell balloons where they stuffed a bear in it, and they would go around Union Square in San Francisco.
Yes.
And during Christmas time, sell those for $25. So in our garage.
Did you get to witness any of this?
No, we had the machine in our house for a while, and it literally looked like this like acrylic box, and then you like stick the balloon in there and you shove the stuffed toy in there. We always had a helium tank at our house.
Gotcha.
We all played music. We all did photography or had some video experience. I grew up around like just hearing stories of them making money by rolling 1,000 egg rolls for events, like things like that. So it was just, but the thing is, money wasn't always the focus. It was just like, we were just trying to like figure it out, find something out. We weren't even good at balloons, but that became their thing. So with all the people we've interviewed and all the people we want to interview, what is your hope for Anatomy of a Hustler?
It's gonna sound corny, but impact. I hope this can impact at least just one person to try. Just try. And really try though. Like actually.
What does trying look like?
Trying looks like more than an idea. More than having a few beers and telling your buddy about this one thing you think you could pull off and do. Like actually try to do it. Actually figure out what are the steps that fully execute. Whether that's you're gonna try to sell some baked goods or you're gonna try to build an app. Whatever that is, like make those steps, put yourself out there to actually do something and not talk about it. I think.
You mean not just talk about it?
No, I mean don't talk about it until you're doing it.
Whoa, okay.
I think so many people get wrapped up in ideation and telling people their dreams and all this shit that they never execute because they get that high of talking, but they don't ever fucking do it. So if this can motivate someone to say, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
If this person did it and I've been thinking about doing it, I can make my own thing. I could create my own business. I can build opportunity.
Yes.
I can do something. Just do.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And my only advice, if I had to learn anything in the past years that I've been doing this, you don't have to do it all alone. Yep. You can find somebody who's maybe doing something similar to what you're doing and partner with them. But like there's opportunity out there.
100%.
Awesome.
100%. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me on the couch today.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. And stay tuned for more. We'll be circling back to do these conversations every once in a while.
Yeah, so watch Anatomy of a Hustler on YouTube. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. And yeah, awesome.
Good job.
Yay.
Us. Yes, us.